Owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood, EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Bushy roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you'll enjoy deep tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and a breathtaking experience of our beautiful Seaview and Lakeview. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website at ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes. But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo?
What is Baluwo? Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate. Tell me how Baluwo works. It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Hello and welcome to the brunch on Kerfatu. I'm Lamin Chan. With me is Nima Kamara. Nima, welcome back from Turkey.
Thank you.
And my usual companion, of course, Mustafa Kedavo of Kerfatu. Now, this week it became public knowledge that the Commission on Inquiry, which looked into the financial dealings of ex-President Janneh, his family and associates, have been unveiled by the Minister of Justice, Bar Tambido. In the report, as expected, of course, the government of the Gambia said it has found that the ex-president had stolen over $1 billion in Gambian dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars, and in fact, 2 million or so in British pound sterling. We will discuss this, and we will talk about what the government thinks of this and other findings made by the Commission, plus, of course, a controversial angle when where we have officials who've been indicted, but they've just been warned by the government and against the recommendation of the Commission to have them sacked from their job. We're looking at all this. Mustafa, no surprise there. Ex-President Janneh being found to have stolen millions and millions, tens of millions if you want. You're talking about dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars and some foreign currency. So no surprise that.
Well, when Janneh took over in 1994, the salary of the Gambian president was just about $2,744. So, in
I think that was his salary as a lieutenant.
No, that was his
president's salary you're talking about.
That was his salary when he took over. Like when he took over as at the time he took over. So at the time Janneh left, the salary of Gambian leader at the time was 170,000. So he could not have amassed all those millions in his own resources to give it out. And we've seen Janneh, you and I, even in 20, when was you've covered it, the under 17 when it happened. Yeah, when it happened, when there was victory, Jammeh gave out millions and compounds and stuff. Yeah. And that was not the first time Jammeh gave out millions. Jammeh is accustomed to just looking at someone and giving the person million. And his salary is the highest he got was 170,000. Of course, you could say that per diems and all that stuff would come, but even per diems, you can safely say it wouldn't be enough.
And the commissioner outlined some of the ways he used to get this money, including, of course, direct authorities, direction from the central bank to give him money. What a reserve.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, sending protocol officers and all those stuffs to state to central bank to bring cash. And
I think the problem was when Jammeh was here, everything was personalized, not just the institutions, but also state resources were personalized. Even in our common language, we always say the president gives, the president donates. Something that is coming from taxpayers or something that is coming from the government is never said to be from the government or from the taxpayers. We always associate that with Jammeh.
Okay.
And I'm seeing the same trend happening or beginning to happen in the Gambia. And I think it's important that some of these things we discuss.
The Americans were very swift to react to the findings. They said, among other things, that they recommend that institutions should be strengthened to avoid this kind of thing. In addition to the fact that Mustafa, they said the assets recovered from these thefts and other things surrounding it should be transparently handled. Are the Americans concerned that perhaps these things might not be transparent as what expected? Why do you think they should warn that everything should be transparent? Are they saying signals of things that might not be transparent?
Well, I think it's important when it comes to Gambia's efforts to recover our assets. America plays a huge role. Not only are they leading democracy in the world, or one of the biggest democracies in the world, but there are even Jammeh's assets in US. For instance, his compound at Potomac, and also America has a lot of political clout in terms of helping to put pressure on countries that Jammeh might have assets in. So America is a very valid partner in terms of Gambia's efforts to recover assets that belongs to the country that were taken offshore by the former president. That said, of course, I mean, if you had been a keen follower of the government and activities of the government, I mean the new government, the one led by President Adama Barrow, you will understand that, of course, there is a need for us to keep our fingers crossed all the time, because governments, both past and present, are less likely to do the right thing when they feel comfortable. And they need to know people are watching. They need to know people follow every step of the way. They need to know the citizens are alive to their responsibilities to criticize and to scrutinize. That's also very part. That's one aspect that the American press statement seeks to do. At least it shows the government that even the international community is also watching what is happening within the Gambia. This is a very important moment where
the commission also said, recommended Jammeh should be prosecuted for economic crimes, etc. The government accepted that. Do you see that happening?
Well, of course, yes. Jammeh, the recommendation was for Jammeh to pay all the monies, but also be prosecuted for economic crime.
Yes.
Jammeh faced a lot of prospects. I mean, until this time, the authorities have avoided the direct statement on prosecuting Jammeh.
They refused to commit themselves.
Yes, until this statement. So I think we would wait and see what is going to happen. Of course, the Justice Minister did say that they are going to put a bill in the National Assembly to this effect.
That is to issue an arrest warrant or whatever.
Yeah, but so
something like that or what?
Yes. So the Justice Minister has said that while he was holding a press conference. I'm actually looking at it statement here to get you the exact words he has said.
Yes, that's important because these days I put a lot of premium on accuracy. So what did he exactly said about that?
So actually,
start some legislation process and parliament to get or his area to get an arrest warrant for Janneh, or
not necessarily an arrest warrant, but that they're going to. So he said the commission underscored that the damages former President Janneh has caused to government institutions, public resources, state-owned enterprises such serious nature that the government ought to introduce a motion before the National Assembly for charges to be brought against him for theft, economic crimes, and corruption. And the government, based on the recommendation of the commission, the actions taken by the government is expected to generate nearly $1 billion from the assets profit, but that's something else.
What can be meant by that? Like the parliament to...
They're putting a motion before the parliament to
come up with a legislation which would now pave the way for him to be charged.
Yes, for Janneh to be prosecuted.
That is for him to be able to issue an arrest warrant because he's not here.
Yes.
This is economic crimes.
That doesn't make much sense to me. I think if any institution should bring charges on Janneh, it should be the Attorney General's office.
So it will be the Attorney General.
What would the National Assembly have?
Perhaps he needs
I think
sanctioning of the House.
Yeah. I think he needs the backing of also the most powerful institution.
To waive any immunity or whatever.
Likely, yes.
Things like that.
Yeah. I think it's just a precautionary measure.
People will say, why so much importance to economic crime when actually crimes against humanity in courts have been touted to have been committed by him? Why did he not commit to that?
Well, that process is still ongoing.
Oh, that process is ongoing.
It's not over.
It's ongoing, and also, I mean, that's ongoing, and also, you see, it's difficult to go after Janneh for human rights. It's easier to go after Janneh for economic crimes than to go after him for human rights violations. It's far easier because you see, when you are dealing with human rights, it's more destabilizing dealing with the human right because you will have to deal with soldiers and a lot of other people who have had other involvements in those crimes. Whereas this ones you mean
it's an easier choice for the government?
It's an easier choice for the government. That's my view. That's why I mean, look at the security sector reform. Where are we?
The same way it's more complicated.
It's more complex and complicated.
All right, let's move from Janneh. Now let's go down to his associates, because apparently the commission was also looking at activities of his family. And so Janneh is here. Interestingly, is there anything on the First Lady?
There is.
Okay, can we get
she is liable to pay.
Zainab is liable to pay a lot of money.
A lot of money.
More than $1 million.
And yes, I've seen it. And then 14 others, including institutions, were also said to be culpable in one way or the other, and some sort of restriction were placed on their properties or seized. Among them, top prominent Gambians like Amadou Samba, and then a lot of Lebanese sounding names, and
Tony
yes, and then of course you have institutions like banks, GT Bank and Trust Bank. How will they go about that?
Well, that's a very interesting area.
Because they said categorically that they should have their properties seized in the banks. As far as the banks are concerned, they must be made to pay the sums of money from which they accrued some money from those accounts they illegally opened.
Yeah, banks, I think, banks have, based on what the commission said, because I've read the commission report, and the commission's point is that the banks have also violated a lot of regulations, including
opening banks.
Including failure to follow some key procedures in terms of cash transfers, even some anti-money laundering regulations have been violated. So they are charged in connection to that, but also in connection to quote-unquote participation in what obviously seem to be
dubious
and alert a dubious financial transaction.
Like we had in the commission,
and
somebody will just come and say open an account, and they won't look for the documents that are required to open an account. They will just close their eyes.
Sometimes withdraw when the person is not the right signatory.
Absolutely.
In fact, to open it when all the requirements are not there.
Absolutely. And
so
there are central
areas they found them.
Yes, and there are central bank regulations that ought to be followed in things like of that nature.
Yeah.
So that is where the banks have been found to be culpable. But it's also similar to what the individuals you've mentioned, the 14 whose assets they've placed a line. A line simply means I have this, you owe me this.
You gotta pay this.
I'm taking your this until you pay this.
Yes.
But
that's not the case with some others outright seizure and selling of the forfeiture, isn't it?
That's different, because that applies to only two people. That applies to only Janneh and Mohammed Bazi. For now, I think that's what we know. I think for now we know that applies to only. No, Ahmad Samba is among the list of people on whose properties they've placed a line.
Okay,
right. The 14 people, right?
Let's now
the 14 persons, because when the law says persons, it means both. It applies to both institutions and individuals. So there are 14, including institutions and individuals. I can actually give you a list if you wish.
Yes, the 14, of course, let's say they included people like Abu Samba.
Yeah, I can actually give you a list.
Names Tony Gatters, Bazi, etc., etc.
So they actually are Mr. Ahmad Samba, Mr. Tariq Musa, Mr. Fadi Mazegi, Mr. Elijah Raymond, Martin Keller, Nicolau Bazenu, Bragos Bazenu, Ali Yusuf Sarara, Wurenjai Sise, Tony Gatas, Fael Diab, Ganem, forgive my pronunciation of these names, Trust Bank Limited, Guaranteed Trust Bank Limited, M.A. Karafi and Sons. These are the list.
Exactly.
So it only involves two banks, but of course, one bank also has been charged to pay $1 million.
Which one is it?
The government accepts recommendation that Sky Bank should be fined $1 million.
What was supposed to be
to represent the bank charges and other benefits it derived from illegal transactions by former president. So Sky Bank will also
pay $1
million. Yes.
These other banks, has not been specified how much they are supposed to pay.
No, but that's in the So the devil is in the details, so to speak.
All right, let's move on. What about the individuals that actually, whose cases really sparked some controversy and debate all over the place? As soon as the announcement was made, that government's position was that they be warned, not to repeat activities that the commission found them to have committed on the Janneh. That is Alhaji Sise, Chief of Protocol, as well as Mamuri. Can you be exactly what is being said about them?
I think that's on the last page.
Oh, that's on the last page. You mean people who should be warned?
Yes.
So people who should be warned, the government accept the commission's recommendation that the following persons should be reprimanded. Mr. Mamburenjai, Usman Jobata, Mamburenjai Finance Minister. Usman Jobata is the managing director of Gambia Ports Authority.
Yes.
Usman Jambe, Aisat Oba,
Yes.
Oba
was permanent.
Mr. Ismail Asanya, Mr. Yambi Keta, Mr. Lamin Nyabali, Mr. Kalilu Bayo, Mr. Ablai M. Salah, Mr. Suleiman Samba. They are hereby admonished and warned against such conduct in the future.
What did the commission say about them? What did the commission? Did the commission recommend that they should be sacked from their positions?
No.
The commission recommended they should be reprimanded. I think that was the word.
And included sacked from their positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the question is, how many of these names that have been mentioned are currently working with the government? Or are they all working with the government? Because
so a lot of
the
them.
government said
A lot of them are.
they reject the finding of the commission on Alaji Cisse. For example, they said, the commission's finding that there is probable cause for holding that Mr. Alaji Cisse aided and abetted former President and Janneh in the illegal appropriation of public funds for the reasons below. The duties and functions of state protocols are very wide and varied. So now, the government is saying that perhaps the duties of protocol is so varied that they don't agree with the findings of the commission. Also the fact that he should be sacked. What do you make of that? Is this, as people who are very critical of the report are saying, selective justice?
I mean,
where you have others who are banned from holding public
what is clear is that
vice
the commission had extensive time to do their investigations and to make this recommendation based on the evidence that was present to them. So you expect if the government is going to reject those recommendations, they should have something to offer. And the offer they made here is that they didn't find this person culpable because they believe that the policies and the regulations that guided protocol service wasn't there. So their activities are majorly based on what had been told to them by the president or whoever was leading them. Now the question though is why single out Alaji Cisse in this white paper? Because what applies to him based on the justification they give should apply to any other protocol service.
It's not only him, there are 7 others or so who have just been, all the government believes should just be warned and cautioned. But then
those are not, majority of them are not protocol officers.
Yeah.
There were protocol officers
the argument forwarded by the government, Mustafa, on this particular case, that protocol officers' services perhaps are varied and etc. etc. The justification for just warning them, him and Mambore and others, what do you make of them?
So the truth is that the question first I ask myself is, what are we talking about here? What we are talking about is what the commission says.
Exactly.
And now see what the commission says about Mr. Alaji Cisse, for instance. My own clansman, by the way. He's from Salikene.
Yes, okay.
So
we're dealing with him now as the chief protocol of Janneh.
Yeah, but that doesn't negate the fact that.
Yes.
Okay, so so what the commission says in some areas, the commission actually find Alaji to be criminally liable. It's not like they said he has.
Speaking probability, they say they have probable cause. Or probable.
Well, they said
it was not substantive.
Well, that's the government's argument. I'm talking about what the commission says.
Well, what the commission says, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the commission's report. I'm saying what the commission says in some instances.
Yeah.
And this is the white paper. Now this here is the report.
Okay.
Now what the commission says is that it found Alaji to have aided and abetted the pilfering of public resources.
Yeah.
So when you said somebody have aided and abetted, it means the person have played a substantive role that makes the committing of the crime possible. That's why the person becomes an accessory to whatever that crime is.
Yeah.
So that's what the commission says. And the commission has presented substantive evidence to back that.
Yes.
So what the government says is the government rejects that by saying, well, wait a minute, the terms and references of a protocol officer are such that they can do anything.
So why?
That's what the government
what
says.
What is different from the role, for example, played by Secretary General Nyoguba, Momodu Sabali, etc., etc.?
So that's what makes it more ridiculous. But Nyima, of course, have a softer position on this. But for me, personally, I find it completely ridiculous. Right. It's like me saying, Fatu asking me to go and kill someone, and I go kill someone, and I said, well,
I'm going to refer you back to what the commission says. The commission says that that Alaji, sorry, I saw it, but then I missed it again.
Well, you can look at it, but what I have here...
They said the commission found that there is probable cause for holding that Mr. Alaji Cisse knew what the funds were intended for. So the commission may have probable cause to believe that this is the case, but it may not necessarily be the case as well. That's why I said initially it wasn't substantive. But that's not even the point. The point that I was trying to make here is it's important that we understand how our institutions function and the lapses that were there before. Some of these people could be a victim. I'm not saying they are. I want to throw.
Now let me read what the commission says so that you can continue with what you have to say.
Okay.
So that you because there are a lot of areas where Alaji is mentioned in the report, and where all these protocol officers are mentioned. It's not like it's just one portion where they are mentioned and probable cause. I've seen probable cause in only one area. But let me read this for you. It says Special Project Accounts Vision 2016.
Yeah.
The ex-president was sole signatory to this account. The account was illegally opened on the 25th July 2014 by executive directive to the Directorate of Treasury. The account was actually activated by CBG, Central Bank of the Gambia, on the 16th July 2014 with a credit transfer of $2,904,040. United States dollars, before the instruction for the opening of the account were sent. Source of the fund was MGI Telecom AG, managers of the International Telecommunications Gateway. Total sum of $43,123,245 United States dollars was deposited into the account. Between 15 July 2014 to 7th July 2015, ex-President Jammeh personally authorized cash withdrawals from the said account for the total sum of $16,434, mostly collected by chiefs of protocol Sana Jaju, $9,655,821 United States dollars, and Alaji Usman Cisse $2,669,593 United States dollars. Nuha Ture $1 million. They're saying how much each one withdraws. Opening of this account was illegal. Cash withdrawals were illegal. What is the civil liability? Because commission, when it says it brings evidence, it brings the text, it gives you the criminal and the civil liability. So civil liability, the sum of $16,434 United States dollars is recoverable from ex-president's assets. Exhibit CB20. The commission of criminal liability, theft of total sum of $16,434 aided and abetted by public officers.
Okay.
So the commission used aided and abetted, and they said
what I'm asking
this account was illegally opened. Cash withdrawals were equally illegal,
and she was supposed to be helping the first lady transferring monies.
Well, those are also another areas.
Yeah.
This is just one portion I'm talking to you about.
Yeah.
There are. This is a treasure trove of data.
Is this any different from what the rules Sabali, how to call it, Njogu Ba and others supposed to have done?
Yeah, it's not any different. The actions are not any different because what they have all been accused of is aiding and abetting. And that's what happened with the likes of Sabali and Jokuba. Their liability came from having signatories to this account or issuing checks for this account. But my point, the point that I was trying to make, and I'm not making this point particularly for Alaji Cisse because I don't even understand why he's been singled out of all the other people that have been liable. Exactly. I'm making this argument on behalf of the protocol officers. Like if under Jammeh, if you look at the services of the protocol service, our understanding was they were more like errand boys and girls. Like they were running errands for President Jammeh, to be specific, and maybe his first family. And if the government is saying that no rules, no regulation, no policies that were there to clearly state what their specific rules would be, We could say, for example, somebody might understand what they are doing is illegal, but they feel they are compelled to do it because they are being asked by someone to do that. So they are just in a messenger role in that way. So it's critical. You cannot take individual liability from this, because when laws are broken, somebody has to be held responsible for it. But it's important that we think about the fact that beyond individuals, there could be institutional lapses that need to be mentioned here. And why doesn't the recommendations, for example, include such?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So the government actually, the commission has recommended, if you read the Alaji Sisa part, there is a portion that the government rejects, but there's a portion that the government accepts. Now, if you read where the government accepts, the Attorney General, if you read where the Attorney General says they have accept. So instead, the government accepts the recommendations of the commission that clear policy. This is quote unquote the commission. This is what the commission says. The commission says that clear policies should be set up by the personnel management office so that protocol officers fully comprehend what their roles and responsibilities are, and that the role of the protocol officer at the OP, Office of the President, should be reviewed with a view to setting guidelines and limits as to their functions in relation to the private financial affairs of the affairs families.
So basically what this recommendation suggests is that the protocol officers may not at the time understand fully what their roles were, because those have not.
That was the white paper is trying to suggest.
That's what the white paper is trying to suggest.
The white paper
is this strong enough to justify just letting them off the hook?
Nima is doing a very good effort at doing exactly.
No, that's not what I'm trying to do. Don't misunderstand me. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm saying that this could be beyond individual liability here. And it's important that we bring everything comprehensively under one umbrella and to look at where the lapses are, where some people could be excused for the actions.
But that's what the commission is saying there. The commission is saying the terms and references for the work of the protocol officer should be clear.
Yeah.
But the point also is a protocol officer who guides the president, is always around the president, knows what the president should know, what the president should do and shouldn't do, can do and can't do. If you don't know that, you are not a protocol officer.
Okay.
If you don't know what the limits of the president are, you not a protocol.
But if the policies and the guidelines are not there for you to be able to understand what those mean,
then there's a problem. The guidelines are the limits of the president. The protocol officer is not a finance officer.
That is not cast in stone. It has to be written down. It has to be there for everybody to understand. And I'm talking about this because I see this happening everywhere, where people are given jobs to do without any time of reference. And you are told in your appointment letter that you are answerable to a certain individual, and any other duties that are assigned to you, you must do them, right? So if you, for example, your education is limited, as most protocol officers in the past, their education were, you are not au fait with government activities, you don't understand what state resources are to be spent or how they are supposed to be spent or who is supposed to spend them, you consider yourself as just an errand person or just a messenger. You might see something that is being done and it's wrong, and you understand it's wrong, but you feel it's not in my powers to stop this from happening. I am asked to do something by somebody who has authority to ask me to do them, and I'm just going to do my job.
Well, unfortunately, this bunch of people are not illiterate, and they are educated.
Besides that,
let me just read you another portion.
Misunderstand, so I need to clear this. Besides that, what is happening here is, if Alaji Sise and the other protocols officers and anybody else who have been charged or who have been recommended to be either reprimanded or whatever it was that they should serve in the government for a lifetime, those recommendations are based on one thing only, that they have helped President Janneh to loot Gambians of all the monies that have been mentioned here. If some people are to be punished for that, the rest of them should be punished. Let me
read you this one, because we are trying to juxtapose two scenarios here.
What we're trying to establish is whether the crimes supposedly committed by other people who have been banned to hold public office, and then those who have been cleared, sort of cautioned by the government, whether their crimes are similar.
Let me actually read you this so that you people will understand some basis.
Exactly.
You will understand some basis. I'm reading.
Said of the role.
I'm reading. I'm reading. You know, just read Alaji and other protocol. Noah and Sana.
Yeah.
Noah Jaju and Sana. Noah Ture and Sana Jaju. So I'm just coming to read you the one, just a portion on Sabali. The Kanaji mineral accounts.
Yeah.
Kanaji mineral, of course, the account number is there. That's insignificant.
Kanaji, not Kanaji.
Yeah. By the way, their materials are still. And you know that Kanaji mineral actually won. Well, we pronounce it. Yeah. Don't mind me. I'm not an English anyway. So their accounts actually, you know, they've won a case against Gambia government. So there is that. Money there.
Paid, yes.
So Gambia is supposed to take sold that financial boarding.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
So the Kanaji Mineral account was opened by PS Finance on the directives of the OP by letter dated 23rd January 2007 to lodge royalties from the Kanaji mining operations. The signatories were the various SGs and secretaries to the cabinet. Cash withdrawals totaling 14,401,000 were made by Mr. Njoguba. I mean Dr. Njoguba.
Yes.
Channeled through the Directorate of Treasury. The total sum of 51,273,741 were applied to payments that were made that were not for any government purpose or public benefit on instructions of ex-President Janneh. Janneh. Total cash payments of 29,086,500 were made to ex-President by Dr. Njoguba. 14,400,000 Momodu Sabali and Nuha Ture as joint signatories. That's 14,686,500.
Yeah.
Okay? Civil liability. They said 2,086,500 cash and authorized ineligible payments. 15,273,741. Total 86,360,241 to be recovered from ex-president. Criminal liability.
So
wait. Criminal liability. This is the interesting option.
Yeah.
This is what I've read is not different from what I've read before. Yes. In the case of Alaji, because they are all withdrawals. Illegal opening of the account and illegal withdrawal.
And helping and abetting.
Yes. So now they said criminal liability. Theft of cash sums of 29,086,500 aided and abetted by public officers Mesa Njoguba and Momodu Sabali.
So what did the commission say should be done with Momodu Sabali and just to be exact?
They are banned from.
Banned from.
Oh no, that's what the government says.
No, I'm saying what did the commission say?
The commission has found them criminally liable
and
for the theft of this sum of money.
And what should be done about that?
Criminality means there should be, yes.
And not holding of
and you know this whole thing.
And that's what the government accepted.
So the government says that of course, Sabali cannot pay this amount of money.
Yeah.
But of course, they can recover it from the president. And there is from the president, former president.
Okay.
So there is indication that the former president used this money, not necessarily Sabali.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you recover the money from the former president, but then
you punish Sabali
for aiding and abetting something that was visibly illegal.
Not holding public office.
Now, of course, you can excuse Alaji perhaps where you may not necessarily excuse Nuha or Alaji or Sabali, because Sabali is someone who has worked at the directorate of at the budget.
That's why I was saying.
So are you suggesting
aware?
Are you suggesting that perhaps the government is right?
I am not suggesting that. For me, the government is wrong. inexcusably wrong.
We have to
And that's
understand.
what do we have from Mambari before we move on to the other section?
So Nyimba wants to, while Nyimba bring her point, while you bring your point, let me just look for Mambure.
So the point I was trying to make here is that we can all agree that they've been accused of the same thing, helping and abating, but we have to understand there are categories. There are people,
the gravity, like the government
of it, the gravity of liability is not the same. You have people, for example, the Tony Gattas and the others.
No, I'm talking about the civil servants.
Civil servants,
yes,
I'm beginning from the top categories coming down. But if you're talking about the civil service, people like Joguba, people like Sabali, you have to understand these people are in high positions. They're in positions that are way above a protocol office.
Chief of protocol.
Chief of protocol.
Seriously?
I'm not just, I'm not focusing on one individual here. I'm focusing on the protocol service itself, right? And you are trying to just put me in a trap. I'm not going to get into that.
Isn't the level of involvement or the gravity of the supposed crime or the status of the person that matters here to the commission?
I don't think the status determines how much you ought to know. And the status determines the responsibility you play or the role you play in what had happened. Because if you are in a category of Secretary General, for example, your understanding of how government works would be way above somebody below that rank. That's my understanding.
But didn't all these people share one problem? That is, they have all been instructed.
Now, let me read you another portion.
That's not
No. This other one is on Alaji. We will go to Nuha and we will go to Sana also. Let me read you this portion. This is Republic of China on Taiwan. They relate, of course, the account number is there, but that's useless to us. This is an account of the Embassy of Taiwan from which grant funds were made to the government. Between November 2007 to March 2011, ex-President Jammeh received ROC checks, whatever that means. Checks, I think it just means.
I remember one being presented to Gambian National.
In his personal name, in the total sum of $3,300,000 United States dollars, which he cashed. 4 million which were cashed by Chief Protocol Mr. Alaji Usman Sise on his behalf. 1 million all United States dollars. 1 million transferred to his personal account in the trust bank, and $1,999,899 to the President's HIV and AIDS Treatment Fund, which is entirely controlled by ex-President Jammeh. $2,099,993 United States dollars through Jammeh Foundation for Peace. What is the civil liability? $8.8 million received by ex-President Jammeh on behalf of the Gambian people. What's the criminal liability? Theft of $8.3 million by ex-President Jammeh, on which United States dollars 4 million was aided and abetted by Alaji Usman Sise.
Well, Nima, from the look of things,
this is just one of many.
You're just twisting this whole thing as if...
I am not twisting it on you. I'm just saying. Don't get me wrong. I am not saying.
What we really want to be sure of is whether there is any degree of difference in terms of gravity, or between the supposed crimes of this category of people who have been banned from holding office and Mr. Mambure and Mr. Sise, and plus others, others all fall in this category. But because Mr. Sise and Mambure perhaps are the most influential in the president's presidential cycle. That's why these people have been pointed out by many people holding different views in the public space or the social media, etc.
Even the former secretary. But there were a lot of other people who were indicted. Even the former secretary General Ibrahim Okama.
Yes,
he was also indicted in a lot of few other places. For instance, he's being indicted.
Is he also been called in public office?
No.
They've all been warned.
He's currently on international
appointment. They fall over the category of that to be warned or what? What is it?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure
I don't
he
think
even
his name
falls.
was even
His
mentioned.
name is not even mentioned.
It was not even,
Of course,
so
he's
there is the problem.
because he's your clansman.
So that's where the problem is.
Let's
now.
simplify this now.
Yeah.
Here is the problem.
Why are
The
other
problem,
people-
the problem is not even between now top officials, law officials, because that's we can make an argument on that if the treatment was fair.
Yes.
Now the case is, it turns out that
Yeah.
majority of those who have just been warned,
Yeah.
or who they didn't, the government refused to act on the government, the commission's recommendation based on their involvement in these activities.
Yeah.
Majority of those are now working with the government.
That's what I'm.
And we can see how that will be problematic.
Now that's the point we are trying to drive us.
I understood that point from the beginning,
Yeah.
but when we speak on general plane,
So now-
the general
now-
plane, we can make
See, that's
categories
the point.
between
See, that's the
those-
point. Let's
Yeah.
discuss this. That's the point. One thing, Mustafa. Is it? Did we learn from the government report that those who are serving and are asked to be sacked from their jobs or be banned from holding public office, all those serving have just got away with a warning, isn't it? Is that not the case?
All of them that we know. Yeah.
All the people who've been warned are those serving. So it's not just Alaji and Mambure that the government
Mambu
is.
and Jai,
That's the government.
maybe I didn't say Mambu and Jai
Mustafa-
wasn't even mentioned here except
Mustafa-
where it is said he's been.
What I'm trying to say
Warned.
is that is it that those who are serving, those currently serving, have all received
because
the same
because you
treatment from the
see,
government, which is
you see,
they just should be warned.
because you see, even Aisatu Oba is also one, right? Yeah.
Yes,
He's one of those
That's
who
what
are
I'm
one.
saying. And it-
But
it- it-
when we were here, when the commission was,
All-
she went quite in and out.
Exactly.
And was also connected to some withdrawals.
Yeah.
And all those withdrawals were deemed illegal. So nobody is saying,
Yeah.
let's be clear, no one is saying Asad Oba or Mambere or any of these people who are connected to withdrawals, and some of them have even come to the commission defiantly saying they think they were doing the right thing. Of course, even a high school student knows a president cannot just go to the central bank and withdraw money and say, I'm using it. No, everyone knows that. You can't have a degree in finance or economics and come and tell us, I think the president was right withdrawing money anyhow. Then you're not educated. You should be fired. It's stupid.
But most of them were into it.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, so the point is, let me read you this.
Yeah.
So MRI Presidential Project Account, Trust Bank Limited. And the account number is there, but that's again insignificant.
Yeah.
The account was opened on the 13th April 2011. GMD savings account, Gambian Dalasi savings account. Various secretaries and secretaries to cabinet were the signatories to the account. Account was funded from the Taiwan government ministries and transfer of 15 million from Social Security Fund, Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation.
Yeah.
Total credits into the account is in the sum of 31,238,523. Excuse my English, I can't talk like a British. So total debits 28,145,480 dollars. Balance at freezing, as at the time they freeze it, the balance was 3,992,012. Total cash of 28,145,480 withdrawn through Dr. Njoguba and Nuha Ture, 15 million. Sana Jaju, 3 million. Aisat Oba and Ismaila Sanyang, 7 million. Aisat Oba and Ismaila Sanyang and Sana Jaju, 2 million. Civil liability, 28 million cash is recoverable from the ex-president and mentioned public officers.
Good. So
This one is different. Have you seen the difference?
yeah, I've seen the difference. And
It's not saying just Jambe, it's saying 28 million cash is recoverable from ex-president Jambe and mentioned public officers.
which included
The list I've just given you.
Alaji Sise.
No, this does not include Ajise, but it includes Sanajaju, Ismaila Sanyang, Aisad Oba, Dr. Noha Ture, Dr. Njokuba, okay? And it says criminal liability, theft of 28 million aided and abetted by public officers involved.
In that list. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on now.
So it's a category of
okay, so
aiding and abetting. So it depends on who is looking at it. But I mean,
So
of course.
So is it now, are the critics of the government on these two matters who are much close to the president, Mamburi and Alayi, I mean, are the critics right that
It's
because
a valid criticism.
that they have selective justice been done there?
It's a valid criticism.
Well, you know, for me, I like to just present the facts.
Exactly.
And the way that
we have gone through, we are able to.
I wouldn't go through the voting process. But
Why for me it's a valid criticism is this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any problems with, for example, categorizing the people who are involved into categories, and based on the gravity of their involvement, they are punished. So I wouldn't mind if a category of those involved are just being warned, if it means that it cuts across the board, regardless of who is serving in the government and who is not. But if all of those who are serving in the government, and some of those can be put in the category as Sabali and Joguba and others, and Joguba and Sabali are being given handed a life ban service, these people are just being warned, that's problematic.
That's really problematic.
That's really problematic.
And morally, let's this question before we move on. I mean, will you think President Barrow, who's really pledged to fight corruption, how much more comfortable will he be in the company of people who've been indicted by a commission of he would be in their company when he has this cardinal principle of fighting against corruption or suspicious activities?
Since President Barrow came to power, what activities has the president done or his government done that indicates that this government is serious about coping?
He had always said many
times.
But
Mr.
Chair, the passport scandal, he said there will be no sacred cow.
Saying they have said so many things. There have been so many commissions that have been set up here. Okay. And corruption is not just financial.
Let's move on to another category.
Because, in fact, passport scandal. But let's move on.
Category now.
So there's so many happening that indicates this government is more corrupt than they are willing to go corruption.
All right, let's go to another category down the line, just a little below President Janneh.
You've told me about what the commission says about Kanilai Family Farms, Kanilai.
Yes,
Kanilai Group International Unique Transport System. Is it true, Sindola Safari Lodge?
Yeah, because the government said they disagree with the commission.
Oh, so the commission says the evidence shows that the ex-president went into business.
Yeah.
The earliest evidence of this is the Youth Development Enterprise through Mr. Baba Job, Senior Assistant Secretary, OP, but who was answerable to the SG, the Secretary General. After 2004, the ex-president set up other companies ostensibly to become a farmer. Then he appeared to expand his interest to other areas. The ex-president, in contravention of Section 48 of the Constitution, illegally set up and established a number of companies and businesses. These are illegal enterprises, and the commission has recommended that the corporate veil is lifted over them for the purpose of fixing liability and that they are liquidated, all liquidated. The following are Kanilai Family Farms, Kanilai Group International, Unique Transport System Company, Sindola, Sindola Lodge, Mineral Company of the Gambia, Westwood, whatever, the list goes on. Observer Company, Alhamdulillah, Petroleum Company, APAM, Green Industry,
so the government,
Westport Logistics, of course, Kiam Family Farm.
Listen, the commission is said that they will liquidated.
Yes.
Meaning they ceased existence.
Yeah.
The government disagreed with that.
No, the government didn't disagree.
It accepted.
I think so. I think what they disagreed with is where you were mentioning Farato.
Farato, yes.
Farato is not here.
Well,
they said Kanilai Family Farms.
They said, and Farato Farms there as well as Abattoir. It's a different set of thing, I think we're doing.
Well, Abattoir is not.
Well, I mean, what we have to determine is what the commission said about those 5 that the government disagreed with. We have to refer to the commission on them. The Abattoir, Farato Farm, Kanilai something. So it's interesting for us to know what the commission said about them, so before we can determine why the government is objecting to the commission on those 3 or 4?
Central Abattoir Abuko.
Exactly. What did the commission say about them?
So it's a bit, because this is a data that's so complex.
So, yes.
It took you another time to go through this to understand even some few things.
Well, here
but here, well, what it says was that Kanilai family farm. It will take a little bit of time to read this, about 5 minutes. Can I read it?
Is it mentioned?
Abuko is meant Central Abuko.
Okay, let's
Central Abattoir Abuko?
Yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the government disagreed with the commission about what. So we want to know what the commission said there.
Yeah. So KFF was was incorporated on the 14th of October 1998. Shareholders are ex-president 99% and his brother Ansuman Jambe nominal 1% owner. He told the commission that he never participated in or asked about the company. The share capital of the company is 11,100 divided into 111 ordinary shares of $100 each. The objects for which the company was established were to carry on the businesses of farming in all the company's branches, such as wholesale and retail of fruits and vegetables, including mixed farming, poultry, animal breeding, etc. It also includes exporting of agricultural and farm produce. Kanilai Family Farm was a holding company. It also operated business units.
Go down and see what the commission said about them in total.
So I'm almost getting there. It also operated business units with their separate bank accounts and generally operated from Kanilai Family Farm offices at the Standard Chartered Bank and from State House. Ex-president was signatory to some of the bank accounts with Managing Director Ahmed Hodge, whatever that name is, Pausman Bojang, Per B. Tamba, and Jambe 2015 operated trust bank accounts. So A1 is Central Abattoir Abuko. Kanilai KFF Abuko base was bought by the ex-president from Mr. Momodu Gay for an estimated 16 million. It has never paid corporate tax. It maintained 3 trust bank accounts. And then also the business address was listed Kanilai Village, West Coast Region, address, whatever. So we're going down to the following were claimed by various institutions.
Actually,
I don't think
what we're trying to establish,
the liability owed to GPA, GFC, and NAVEC have been accounted for under the relevant SOEs. These liabilities are by no means up to date in connection with tax due to KFF properties are recoverable from KFF, etc. The money they owe, that's what is huge. And I doubt if because these people are saying the amount they owe to GRA, Kanilai Family is over 75 million. The amount they owe to ports is over 11 million. The amount they owe to GFS, Gambia, whatever. Yeah, it should be. That's over 300,000. So, I mean, I think more or less the amount they owe to KMC and Central Abattoir, it's over 53 million.
Right. Okay.
So total amount they owe the Gambian people is over 140 million.
These institutions who are not paying taxes or rates in the sector, and they are all being operated by people.
Kanilai Family Farm related.
All right. Let's move on to another category. Like I said, further down, a little down, they have former Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure. Aissatou Njai. I beg your pardon, Dr. Aissatou Njai. It is said there that she's liable to some $11 million, etc., and she should have her property somewhere forfeited to the state, and she's been found unfit to hold similar position in the Gambia and as well as other public entities for 5 years. How do you find that?
I mean, that's not surprising. It wouldn't be, it's not a magic for anybody to assume that this woman could be in connivance with President Jammeh on a lot of violations, especially financial dealings. Because if you've served under a government like that for so many years without ever having problems with with the leader, then you must be someone who agrees to most of the things that happens.
So that means Mustafa, just to move on.
I find it very lenient.
It's even though it's lenient.
I mean, this is one person who has played a key. Here we just go after people who are just people who are insignificant. Like, yeah, people here we not serious about stuff. We don't go after people.
Like she said, Janneh Foundation.
Yeah, but these are the people who establish the system itself. These are the people who make the system work.
Okay. So
they are the people who should pay for what the system. 5 years and then someone like Secretary General or someone like a protocol officer or someone like some accountant life or someone like some MD life.
That's easy to say.
Let's go.
What is hard to do is to be able to connect her to any of these things. Like
except perhaps the Janneh Foundation where the commission
exactly.
Yeah.
So that may not be as significant.
11 million or so, and to have her properties for free. Now let's move on to another category. The AFPRC, the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council. I mean the junta. It's been said that Mr. Ibu Jallo, Mr. Edward Singate, and Yankuba Ture were all soldiers of the armed forces, and together with former President Jammeh constituted the armed forces. Okay, the commission found inter alia that they were involved in financial dealings when they were council members along with Jammeh. That they had diplomatic relations with Taiwan, expecting financial aid from Taiwan, and this was given, according to them. Ibu Jallo flew. It was $35 million. Ibu Jallo flew with $5 million on a private jet to Banjul, and the commission said that part of that money was said to be lodged at the central bank, but then 32 million, etc., 220,000, so it's not been accounted for, and they've been made to pay for this. Yankuba Ture, Edward Singate, Yaya Jammeh, Ibu Jallo. So, what do you think of this guy? No, at the time, Sana was already out of it, out of the system. Ibu Jallo had countered this, that he brought all the money and doesn't know anything about it. Or part of the money has been lodged in Citibank abroad and it's been controlled by the central bank. That's what Ibu Jallo's reaction has been. Yeah, he's already reacted to that. But then he agreed, of course, bringing $5 million to Jammeh. At the commission it was said, it was there when it was shared among them. You remember Kaba Bayo saying he never received any money and
Sure.
same thing.
I'm sure you are familiar with Ibu Jallo.
Well, yes, he said that
he's a man who
never took any money. His money was lodged in Citibank in
was he not the one who was accused of running away?
Yeah, that's a separate money.
Ibu plays fast and loose a lot. So this flip-flopping. And he's, as far as I'm concerned, I would rather go with the commission's report. I think they were meticulous, they knew what they were doing, and they trust the evidences that they've garnered. So whether or not Ibu benefited from the money or took a part of the money, what at least commission was able to establish was Ibu was there at the beginning of things.
Yes.
And he knew he was part of those who collected the money, who negotiated the money and collected the money. So if the money disappears, we go to the person who collects, and it's reasonable to think that that he is connected to it.
The government concluded, white paper concluded, that these recommendations will be implemented in phases depending on the availability of human, material and financial resources at any given time. That does I tell you. Are they suggesting that in some cases they will not even pursue the implementation because there will be no money? Or what do you make of it? In phases, depending on availability of material and human resources.
What does that even mean?
Well, that's what the government said. These recommendations will be implemented in phases depending on the availability of human, material and financial resources at any given time. So are we about to in fact see some let me say some lapses even in the implementation on the grounds that perhaps there was no money or human resources available?
So
what among these recommendations
He said all the
requires significant financial support?
That's what the elites. That's what
the question.
the elites. That's what they do. Even if they are going to.
What are we talking about?
He said human and material resources. Do we have to employ people specially or a special unit, or do we have to have another budget for recovering these things, another institution that will set up to recover this? I think the AMRC is there. They can do these things. In cases where they to recover the funds through sale of properties, etc., etc. I mean, the government concluded that they will implement these things depending on availability of human materials. So what do you make of it? That's what do we understand from it?
I think the government is just creating itself.
Is that not a grey area? It's vague, is it?
I think
I
don't know what the right word would be. Something.
So, but there are a lot of things they said that were pretty much ambiguous. For instance,
let's start with the Janneh Commission report. This was a report that was handed to the government for a very long time. For a very long time, the people have not been privy to what the report recommended. For a very long time, when it came out, they decided to address it in piecemeal until the public spoke against such an activity.
Yes.
And now they're compelled to bring the report out. And now they are saying that even when we see that this may not require a significant amount of money, and it may not require the employment of additional people into the government to implement this, and when they are saying this, then what that suggests is that they can refuse to implement this, and then they come out and say this was our excuse because we have told you before.
What do you think of it? We will implement it in phases depending on availability of money, material, and human resources.
You know, sometimes also Gambia is it's a funny country, it's a small country. Everybody knows everybody else. People tend to second guess their actions a lot of times. Perhaps the person who is going to be punished by you is your friend's friend or friend's brother.
You are not the one punishing.
Or things like
the law is the law.
Yeah, but here it's viewed as
that is punishing.
Absolutely, but here it's viewed as the individual behind the law doing the thing. Even if you look at when Bar was presenting the white paper, the Attorney General, he was saying that of course they have looked at the report within the context of the prevailing circumstances, which is he mentioned they said most cases members of business community in their dealings with former president were motivated by greed and opportunism, while those who served in public offices were mostly motivated by a combination of fear and self-preservation. Of course, that's not an excuse.
So it's
not an excuse that you are motivated by self-preservation, that you do what is not right. So if you look at what the commission says, it's what Cham is mentioning here. It's a similar situation. Government usually give us this kind of give us
excuse.
This kind of excuses to so that when cases of that nature comes, they say, but yeah, I mean, we don't have the money to implement X, Y, and Z. I'm not so, I've looked at the report. Of course, it's too early for all of us to digest everything. This is a treasure trove of data. You cannot just consume everything within, even the government, it took them a lot of time
6 months
to be able to assess everything. So things will begin to make more sense to us as we walk on. And this is just the beginning of our look into this. Maybe some journalists will go home sleeping, but others will keep looking at it, reading it to understand it, and follow up stories to see what happens.
I think the reason why people will be eager to see them implementing these recommendations is that in the past, we have not, I mean, the government, when you focus on, for example, the head of state, have not shown any significant drive to deal with situations like this, especially now that we are at the heat of politics in this time in the country. I think that's where people are concerned, whether or not they will have the willingness to go after the people who are held liable for some of these crimes, especially when that is going to cost them politically.
Now, let's end on this.
Before we end, though, there have been concerns that were raised on social media, and I think they are very relevant.
Yes, what is trending? You've been...
Yeah, so I have seen at least two concerns or two suggestions on social media that really captured my attention. One of them was that such recommendations like this, when they come out from this commission, it is not the executive branch alone that ought to make a decision about them.
Okay.
That the National Assembly must have been involved.
Well, didn't they? I thought the general said something like that. They're going to.
The concern was before the government come out to take a position. The National Assembly should have been involved in the first place. So it should have been a joint decision.
You mean but do we have an effective National Assembly? That's also the problem.
You mean they should have participated in it?
We don't have an effective.
This is how we make it effective. Because otherwise this becomes only a political action. It becomes a political action. Now the other concern is, what happens if the borough government is no longer there? If borough governments make a political decision to say that Sabali and Juguba are being handed a life ban to serve in public offices.
If another government
If the borough government is out and another government comes, wouldn't they have the power to counter that?
So you mean,
but let's say, for example, if this was to go through the courts and the court make the decision, then that becomes legally binding.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
So, but government does not have that that level of. When this is a cabinet that you have only few people who are serious.
But that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, so, but you expecting too much. I mean,
for me, I have
if I see something, because even if you look at the Justice Ministry, I mean, all the things that are happening in this country, everything we are talking about is coming from the Justice Ministry.
The good and the bad.
The good and the bad. No other ministry is telling us anything.
Yeah.
No other ministry is just doing anything.
That's why sometimes I think it's important we give back.
It's messing up in some ways, but
it's really been undergoing.
Well, he messed up. He messed up big time in some ways.
The reason why we're seeing the good and the bad coming out is because something is being done there.
Yeah. So how can you be thinking all of this? You have 1,600 pages to look at. 1,600 pages to analyze. So he may messed up, but
finally,
I mean, he is the best of the terrible.
The job of the commission, what do we make of the job of the commission, and then of course and the government finally. What do you make of the commission's work in bring up this the content of this 1,000 source pages?
Well, for me, I think I'm yet to understand the level of meticulousness of these people. I think they've done an amazing work. From the first look at it, I think they've done an amazing work.
Wow.
But I think this is for journalists. I think this is like you going on a treasure hunting, and then, at the bottom of the sea you found some old ship with a lot of gold. This is a treasure from data.
Find it a lot of work. In terms of interpreting, because you will have to first bring out what the commission say about a certain category and what the government say.
So I think journalists would follow this, but narrow points by points, individual by individuals, issues by issues, and this will take us 10 years to deal with, because it exposes the level of corruption, public sector, and it reminds, and we completely be reminded of things of this nature. It tells us how unprofessional people can be. We've seen even, we can connect this to the present. We've seen all the things that are happening are still happening.
Okay.
I agree with you.
I was going to say the lessons that the government and the Gambian people should learn from this Janneh Commission?
Let me start that.
Yeah, so I agree with this is an important document, not just for journalists, even for academics, but also even for the institutional reforms that are being undertaken now, and for future reference, because this document is going to go in a long way for us to diagnose what the problems were, where we have gone wrong, and how we can rectify them. So it's not important just to recover assets or to go after people who have committed crimes, but it's a reference document that would be very important in establishing a very strong institutions for the process of good governance.
Lessons?
The lessons, I think, it's like Mustafa said, it's not easy to digest, and there is no easy way of going after the recommendations that have been presented here. The government might have done certain mishaps, because if you're going to deal with an informed public...
Do you believe the government had some sacred cows in the...
I wouldn't call it that, but I don't think things were done transparently as such, and people are going to continue to scrutinize that, and I hope they are listening to people and they're going to rectify those things. But I also believe they could be more transparent with this, because the Janneh Commission was one of the most transparent reforms or activities that are happening here. And it has captured the attention of the public, so if the recommendations come out or the report come out, it should be accessible to people. I don't know what would be so sensitive about the document to an extent where we cannot have it online in full.
This should be online in full.
In full.
All the volumes.
They didn't talk about it, but maybe with the demand.
Even those of us who leaked it before they published it, they were angry with it.
Yeah, and I think...
Furious.
But let's talk about it.
Happens?
Let's just address it before we go.
They were furious.
The journalists, maybe, I don't know, government officials are saying that they're not happy with the fact that it's been leaked a day before.
Yeah, before it was
actual full
it was on our platform, Kefadun, was on standard.
But why are you blaming journalists for leaking something that obviously is going to be everybody's knowledge the next morning?
Let's establish this first. Journalists do not leak.
Information
get leaked.
Information get leaked to journalists. And it's public interest. It's public interest. That's all journalists care about.
To get any bashing for letting it.
Citizens like us, we like information like this to be leaked.
To be leaked, And also, look at how government restricts access to this.
Absolutely.
They are telling us they have nothing to, but it's not true. They're restricting access to this because the Janneh Commission is in soft copy. It is. Every volume of the Janneh Commission is in soft copy right now. They could have just sent it to journalists.
Yes, they could have sent it.
They could have published it on the Justice Ministry's website.
Even if it will take.
You know what I mean? But they don't want us to access it. A friend of mine called me yesterday and he said, where can I access the Janneh Commission? I asked him to go to the printing. He went to the printing and they told him we don't have copies here. The guy at Timbuktu had actually called them and he wanted to take it there so that sell it and it's accepted, and they told him the same thing. We don't have copies here. And they told us to go there. To go to the printing, and printing doesn't have the copies there.
Disclose it to the press, and yet not all the press present were given any copy.
We have 3 copies.
Only 3 copies.
And these 3 copies, it's only one that is complete. The other ones are jumbled up, mixed volumes. Some volumes we have many.
I expect the journalists now to go through all these volumes and share with the public and just. Wow.
So there are two strengths they have here. One, they know people are lazy. People just look at this data and focus on just some key people. Jambe, and run away, and journalists sleep, and no one talks about it for good. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. People will talk about this for 10 years to come. People will work on this for years to come. Because that's what it is. So,
Well, so is this what we expect also from the TRRC in some years time, sometime in the future?
If TRRC ends like this, I would be disappointed. I think TRRC should end with big reforms. But this one, we don't have reforms. The office of the president is giving diplomatic passport to people and calling them business executives.
That's a topic for another day.
But that's also, we don't have reforms.
Absolutely.
In this country, things are just the way they have always been. And
Right, so this is where we will draw the curtain on this special program on the analysis of the Janneh Commission report and the government paper, which spelled out what the government says it will do about the recommendations. Thank you very much, Mustafa Kedavo of Kerfatu and Nimasata Kamara of the University.
A Turkish national,
just back from
dual citizen
from Istanbul and Ankara. On behalf of the two and our technical staff in the background, I'm in Chang, wishing you have a great weekend.
Owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood, EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Bushby roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breathtaking experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
ñoo ak yéen rek skincare plus nara jàkkaarloo ak yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu cuub suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay cuub te yëngu nag si just any cuub suñ cuub bu nekk 5-star jas na la 5-star jas na muy jas na bi gën a pire moom la ñoo cuub palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee buñ demee Bamako ñun duñ dem ci marché bi rek buub indi déedéet dañ leen a jox suñu specs ne la ñii lañ ko bëggee nay lañ ko bëggee fóot bi nangami fóot lañ bëggal pour mu mën a set waaw cuubi skincare déedéet doo ko sol mu di la taxa all over the place ci gàttal ñun rek si cuub dara du doy day des not only dañoo cuub but bu doon neexee ñu cuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la ñaw fi mu gën a setee nag rek la ñoo fëlee ñetti ñawkat lañ am nañu ñawkat yi simple nga xam ne xoppati rek mbaa def sa taille basse def sa dagit def sa robe amul benn dawme am nañ koo xam ne moo ñoo dawme jigéen den am nañ tamit special ñawkat boo xam ne ñawi góor rek la ñoo defal nga bëgg sa his and hers muy korité muy tabaski mbaa muy ngénte muy takka mbaa nga bëgg rek def sa yëkka bu baax a baax daagul bi ñu skincare plus ñu dimbali la tànnal la ci fa gën a baaxee ndax sa yëkka gën a foor lii nga ne lan xol bi di takka la skincare fii la fa léegi yéen tey we're not all about skin we are skin care and the plus does come in so many different ways. Chubam tuwing de, then chubam sak.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes, but don't you know about Baluwo? Baluwo? What is Baluwo? Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate. Tell me how Baluwo works. It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop or download the app.